What's up, everybody? Clayton and Stephanie gets here for another episode of Proximity Podcast, and we are super excited today to be joined by our good friend, the super sleek, sophisticated, smart, beautiful. I got to get a hat. Like, honey, you got to start wearing a hat because I love the hat. Natalie Bodie, welcome to the show.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I love the intro. You're good.
We're so excited to have you. So to start, I want to share first that Natalie and I were connected originally through my other business, which is in social retail. And I just instantly loved her. She has a magnetic personality. She is she's very smart, very savvy, as Clayton said, and at some point she had a transition in her career. So we're going to talk about that today because with her transition has come a lot of incredible success. And one of the things we love to do here on Proximity Podcast is to interview successful people and pick their brains and figure out what is it that is contributing to their success. Mm-hmm. So to start, Natalie, I'd love for you to share, tell us about you, give us a quick intro and bio of who is Natalie, and just give us a little snapshot of your life.
Okay. So I'm originally from San Diego, California, but I've lived in Charleston, South Carolina for the last 26 years. And I always had the mentality, guys, of victor over victim. I've had a really tumultuous childhood. At 16, one day I woke up and my mom, who struggled with some illnesses, sent me to live with my grandmother. She was 61 years old and my grandfather was 79, and he was self-made, and so was my grandmother. They built the lumber company and cement plant in the town of one stoplight. Moved there, and I learned so much of my work ethic from them. I later went on to college and met my husband and got a master's in business. And after working in corporate America as a wealth management advisor while my husband was in dental school, I had kids, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to have a 9-to-5 job. So I quit and went into social retail space for the last 9 years and became kind of a social media influencer on sharing, solutions to problems that people had with products to sell. But in my time of being raised by my grandparents, they always taught me to invest in real estate. So at 23 years old, I bought my very first condo right out of college, had not like 2 nickels to rub, but I knew I'm not going to rent, I'm going to buy. So I bought a condo. And then 2 years later, I sold it, made a profit, then bought my starter home and made a big profit. And then I jumped every 2 to 4 years in my home and kept making profit and putting into the next house and the next house. And now I live in my dream home and have paid my husband's student loans off with real estate. So whenever I was going through a transition, I don't know, I guess a year ago, thinking, what am I going to do? What am I really passionate about? I decided, you know what, I need to do real estate. I help all my friends find real estate. I love it. I make my own wealth off of it. Why not do this? So I got my license and decided that I was going to be an agent and I was going to explode my competition, and had a really strategic way about it.
Yes, you have. I love that.
So let's talk about that because it's really and Natalie, I think you're aware of this, but maybe not. It's rare. It's kind of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. It's more like right now the 95-5 rule, where 5% of the real estate agents are doing 95% of the business, 10%, 90%, whatever. But you have just one of the reasons I was so excited about talking to you today is because you have just launched extremely, extremely well in a very, very challenging market for most agents. Most seasoned agents, businesses are moving in the wrong direction, are flat or are moving in the wrong direction, and your business is just up and to the right. So I would love to, I'd love to talk about, kind of your strategy moving in. And sorry, am I getting off track here?
No, it's okay.
You
Go
good?
ahead.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is kind of how we roll, Natalie. Stephanie has questions lined up, and I'm just going for it. Yeah. So we got to get back to our pre-show conversation about how you guys put lotion on and
oh my gosh,
so
Clayton.
We'll circle back to that.
Tim, you might cut that out.
No, Tim, do not cut that out. So Natalie, when as you were kind of transitioning into the business, was it your strategy to do what you're doing right now? That's the first question. And what has your strategy been? You know, why do you think you've had so much success in a very short period of time?
Mm-hmm. So whenever I was actually at my social retail business, I felt like I was kind of falling flat. And so I came across a woman through a group that I founded called Women of Influence. And we can talk about that because I feel like every real estate agent or anybody that watches this that are in business should start one of these groups. But I founded a Women of Influence group. It was a bunch of different women that were in business that we could help dream, connect, and support one another. And she was a photographer and a branding specialist out of New York City. And so she was originally going to help me kind of revamp my career in my social retail space. And then one day I said, you know what? I think I'm going to go into real estate. She's like, oh my gosh, we just like finished all your stuff. Are you kidding me? And I'm like, yeah. So she said, Natalie, if you want to stand out from the rest, you've got to be outside the box. And I'm going to help you be outside the box. And you got to go big. And we've got to build it, like the saying of like Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. So she's like, we are going to build you and make you look like you've been doing this for years and that you're professional, your branding, your marketing is all like top notch and it's blowing out your competitors. Because a lot of real estate agents that I know of, they just, they get the listing, they put it on MLS, do a couple like open houses and like pray that somebody's going to buy the house. And so she's like, let's get really strategic on what we're going to do. And she's like, we need to do a launch party. I'm like, okay, a launch party. And like my head was like, how much money is this going to cost? I'm at zero right now. How am I going to come out of pocket? And so I had this idea that, you know what, I'm going to go to the people in my neighborhood that I want to support that are a lender, that are in insurance, that maybe build pools or interior decorator or anything like that. And I'm going to ask them if they would sponsor this party and bring everybody that they know, because I really wanted to farm, which means like focus on my neighborhood. And I'm going to propose this and see what they say. Well, I got $8,000 from all of those people and we had a killer launch party. I made it like Hollywood theme. And it was like my coming out of like, party of this is what I'm doing now, guys. And I made a really big deal of it. And out of that, I launched that. I did that in January. And within 2 weeks, I got my first listing for $900,000. And then 2 weeks later, I got another buyer from that party.
From the party,
just that party. So I'm like, even if I had to pay for it, I've already netted nearly $40,000 in commission for an $8,000 party that now I had 130 people be exposed to me that I'm doing this.
Yep.
So what I think is fascinating about what you did and how you launched is it's common for realtors, and if you're listening to this and you're not in the real estate industry, it is common for real estate agents to get sponsors to help with client events. That's a common thing. But the fact that you didn't even have a business yet, like you're like, hey, I'm launching a business, and that you got all these vendors and partners to come help you throw your launch party in and of itself says a lot about how much influence that you have.
Well, and it's also, and it's also just mindset.
And mindset.
You just asked, right? So most people, when they're starting their businesses, they're afraid to ask, and you just went all, I love how you went all in, Natalie. And it was just like, why not? And so that's super, super cool. And Tim, we got to send Tim some video from the launch party so that people can see how incredible that launch party was and how you brought people together. It's not a surprise that people started referring you after that.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
That is definitely it. And then I just got my marketing, really ticked and tied and got my logo correct. I got like my graphics, I got my colors, and everything had to stay on brand and marketing. And so I really attribute a lot of my success to the branding company, The Narrative here in Charleston that I work with, because they've really built me to look like a professional in this, industry for 20 years. And so when I meet somebody, like my very first listing, she had no idea that it was my very first listing. So when I got the listing, I was like, I'm so excited. And she was like, oh, wow. And I was like, this is my first listing. And she was like, oh. And I was like, don't worry, I'm not going to let you down. And she said it was the best experience out of all the homes that she has bought and sold. And she was in her 60s. So she had bought and sold so many properties. So it was really a magical like connection. I'm glad she went on, faith to,
Yes.
Well,
to use me.
but Natalie, it's so important to, to be different.
Yes.
And you stood out. And there's a really good book called Blue Ocean Strategy, where, most real estate agents swim in this red ocean, right? Where they kind of just eat each other. They're all doing the same thing. So you don't stand out. And I think one of the reasons you've had so much success is you had a plan. You obviously had an agency, behind you. Do you own part of that agency, by the way, or is it?
Right now I am more of like an influencer on that, because to be honest, when you do real estate and you want to do really well, you got to focus just on that.
Yeah.
And so
for sure.
I get all of my services for free by sending really good, referrals to them. But
got it.
So we can, let me ask you this: do they do business out of state as well, or do they just focus?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So if we
and I'm attracting people, and that's another thing. They're going to help me attract people, other agents out of state with what they've done for me, and so yeah.
Yep.
So we can put that link in our bio as well for anyone that's interested in.
Yes, they're amazing. They're the ones that helped me with my launch party and organize it, did all the video reels, all the marketing, all the big things. And then I did a Preakness party a few months later because everybody loved it. And I got a whole nother crowd of people, and I got more business. I got even higher listings. I got $2 million listings from that.
Brand
just
new.
a party. And everybody's like, when's the next party? Like, we're ready to go.
Yeah. Brand new agent. It's
Absolutely
just, it's so cool. And so, as Stephanie and I are kind of relaunching, I just wrote this down. We're relaunching because, Stephanie's playing in the business a little bit more with me. And we are looking at your page and
Brittany Myers.
And Brittany Myers' page, because you guys have just both done such a great. So if you want to figure out, if you're a brand new agent or a seasoned agent, I've been doing this for 18 years, and you want to launch or relaunch your business, go follow Natalie and just like duplicate what she is doing, because it works.
Yeah,
and so the Blue Ocean strategy is you stand out in this blue ocean where you have very few competitors. And that's why this woman, 60 years old, who's probably bought and sold multiple properties, was like, I cannot believe this is your first time. Right?
And Natalie, would you share, because if you're listening to this and you're curious what we're talking about, can you just sort of explain what you did to stand out when it comes to your open houses and things like that? And that is what I noticed. And what Natalie has done is she's taken the staleness. I think a lot of agents, they do what has been working for a long time, but then everybody ends up looking the same, right? And so what you did is you came into this space. By the way, what part of South Carolina are you in, Natalie? Charleston, South Carolina. Which is one of the hottest markets in the country and highly competitive. And what's your average price per sale?
Probably like 1.3, 1.4.
I mean,
is that yours or is that the market?
Well, that's where I am, where I'm targeting, and like North Mount Pleasant is where I live. That's the average. Like, you can't get a home really under 800,000 here.
Amazing. So she's coming into a highly competitive market, and she stood out because of the new and different ideas that she brought. So would you mind sharing a little bit about what you did when you launched, like some of the ideas that you brought, besides the launch party and the Preakness?
Yeah. I mean, one thing I think as agents that they kind of get a bad rap for is, like, somebody will look at how much commission you get. They tally up like how much a house is, and then they're 3% or 2.5%. And they're like, how does this person make $45,000 or $65,000 off a $2 million listing? Like, what are they going to do that's going to be, So that's where I come in. It's like, I'm going to make the most epic open houses where we're going to attract everybody to come. And who cares if it's your neighbors? A lot of people, that are the neighbors that are going to bring buyers or friends that want to buy. So my very first open house that I did, I rented marquee letters and did #BuyMe and had it on the side of the house. And I'm telling you, I had everybody, because the house is kind of on a main drag near a lake. Everybody was taking pictures and like coming in, or like, wow, I have to see what this is all about, and then giving them some champagne and just walking with them and in the house. And then my second open house, I did a bubble house where it's like a big clear bubble, and has a tube that you walk through, and it zips up and holds all the air in this big clear bubble, and balloons fly around. And then on the outside, I had open house. So it attracted a lot of families to have their kids play, take pictures, and then tag me. So that was like it was like nobody could drive by not knowing, okay, that's Natalie Bodie's listing and I got to go see that. And so to me, it was like multifaceted of not only am I doing an open house, I'm attracting traffic, but I'm also attracting other buyers to be like, look what she's doing compared to the other agents. When I'm thinking of listing, I'm going to hire her.
100%.
Because it just, that's what I'm looking for. If I'm going to list my house, I'm like, what are you going to do different than somebody else or different than what I can do myself for sale by owner, you know?
Well, and not just that, you're exactly right. Who cares if the neighbors are coming? Guess what? Those neighbors might be listing their house next year or the year after, and they're going to remember you because of what you did.
That's right.
And Natalie, what's your Instagram page so people can go and see? Because you have
it's Natalie Bodie, so BODIE, so nataliebodie.chs realtor. CHS is for Charleston.
Okay. Yeah. So check out.
I called her Body for Natalie Body for like the first year that I knew her. She didn't correct me.
Oh, that's okay.
No.
Just answer.
Yeah. So the other cool thing that I've noticed that you've done is not just the open houses, but you masterfully market the open houses that are coming through your Instagram page. And do you have a business Instagram page too, or are you doing it all through your personal?
I just do it all through, like, it's really become like my business. I really don't post a lot personally. Maybe my stories is where I post a lot of my personal stuff because it goes away. But my Instagram handle that I gave you is what I do for business.
Yeah. So if you want to see like the letters that she used and the bubble that she's talking about, you can go to her page and look it up. It's pretty amazing. But you did a really great job driving traffic to those open houses as well because of the pre-marketing that you did leading up to that.
Yes, totally had a game plan. That's part of the narrative too. She was like, Lauren and Megan, who are the owners of that company, they gave me infographics of like, okay, this is what you post on Friday in your Instagram reel, you know, to like do a teaser. Then the next day you do this. And then the day of you do this. And then you go into, you know, your neighborhood Facebook groups and I'm contacting, like I'm messaging, you know, like I'm going above and beyond where I'm messaging like my top 60 sphere of influence that live maybe in the neighborhood or know somebody that would want a house, and sending them my little teaser, or going above and beyond with my listings too. Like a lot of agents here, they just do like they hit $250 to get pictures taken of the house and that's it. I'm doing a lifestyle shoot showing somebody like in the house and how they can entertain and like their kids fishing in the pond and walking their dog and just like really trying to make somebody envision like this is what your life can be in this house. And so I do think those things cost, but they do provide a great return, and it's what brands me is doing that type of marketing.
Yep.
And the cool thing too is, and I'm sure you know this, Natalie, but anyone that's thriving in this market right now, as challenging as it is going to explode when the market turns around. When the demand, when the demand the supply. Well, and the demand increases.
Supply exceeds, or normalizes again and exceeds the demand. Right now, the demand is really, really high.
Right.
The supply is really low, which is driving prices up. So Natalie, what so far has been your biggest challenge?
Gosh. I think my biggest challenge is trying to figure out how I can consistently target my neighborhood. And, you know, I'm conflicted on if I should be sending like paper, you know, mailings, or is that a dead thing? And I saw this Instagram reel and I thought about doing this, and maybe you can see what you think. But there was a study where this guy sent out mailers of this one agent for 8 weeks straight. So each week somebody got a mailer and it was targeted to a certain neighborhood. And this agent was fictitious, like never existed. And they went around, they're like, who is the top agent in your neighborhood? And it was this fake person. And it's like, maybe I'm challenged with the fact of, do I do like intense, like quick intervals of it? Or do you do it over, you know, once a flyer every month? Because I see some of my competition doing that, and I'm like, does that really bring in people? So that's my thing, is like, I want to be the top agent in this specific neighborhood, and there's some other established agents in there. And I guess that's probably one of my biggest challenges, is trying to figure out how I can become like the go-to over them. Because I know if I can get in person with that person, I'm going to win it.
Yeah, that's a great. I think it's a great question, because you know, print was really the only way. When I got into the business, print in 2005, print was really that was it. That's how you kind of, there were these luxury, real estate magazines that still exist today, but they weren't cheap. You could get a quarter page, half page, full page. But that's how you got in front of people. So now, like I think what's interesting about that question, Natalie, is, let me give you a good example. Last night, Stephanie and I rarely argue, but we had a tiff is a strong word. But my 15-year-old daughter was, she came home and she was immediately on her phone. And like from the time she got home, and it was late after volleyball. But Stephanie was, she said she was doing some work. You said you were working. I was doing some work. But there's this, we call it the scroll hole. And so Stephanie, and I'm sure you do this, Natalie, I do it. Tim, do you do it? You get caught in the scroll hole? Tim does it. Where, you may even go, to IG or to Facebook looking for something that as it may relate to your business. But then an hour later, you're like, why am I looking at like funny dog or cat videos for the past 45 minutes? But the point is that that's where people's eyes are. And if you continually show up where people are actually spending the majority of their time versus a flash in the pan of a flyer or a postcard once a week, once a month, whatever it is. And you just have to look at the ROI on that, So I think personally, if I'm gonna spend my money and my my resources and my time, and it's what we're doing. Like Steph and I are, it's all content for us now, right? That's why we're doing. It's one of the reasons we're doing this. It's one of the reasons that we have a media and marketing professional and on my real estate team, Rebecca, and she's just going to be producing tons of content for us because we know we're going to get in front of more people. Have you read They Ask You Answer, by the way?
No, I haven't read that.
Yeah, I would check that out. It's really the concept, Natalie, is while you're branding yourself, consumers have questions, especially right now. Like, should I sell my house? Like, why should I sell my house when I'm sitting on a 2.75 or a 3% interest rate and go buy a house at a 7.5% interest rate, right? If you can answer that question for them because they're asking it, whoever answers that question for them is going to be more relevant, right? And so They Ask You Answer is just this concept of nothing's off limits. Whatever the customer is asking, we're answering, right? And you already have eyeballs on you. So, I think that would be a natural step.
And
for
I
you.
will say that your page, so I was looking at it yesterday, that you are already, I can see that you're working towards branding your neighborhood because you did, and I'm assuming this neighborhood was in the target market that you want to capture, right? Where you walked through, like, this is like sort of a day in the life, and this is what you can expect when you live here. And it was beautifully done and very attractive. So yeah, I think you're already doing it. I think you're well on your way. Of course, these things do take time.
Yeah,
but that's a really good book, and I think you can definitely incorporate that strategy of They Ask You Answer into what you're already doing. Yep.
How are you, Natalie? How are you managing your time? Because here's what I love about you and all moms that are doing this business. Because you're a mom. How many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids. I have a 9-year-old and a 12-year-old.
Okay, boys, girls?
Both girls.
Both girls. Okay. Yeah. And then you're married, so you're a mama, you're a wife, you are a professional. So it's just so impressive how you guys do it. How are you managing your time?
That is hard. I would tell you that I have looked into doing like a virtual assistant, like one of those Filipino or wherever, abroad, trying to farm some stuff out for them to do, because it is very hard to run all of my social media, prospect, my listings, helping buyers. It becomes hard. So that's something that I'm looking at. And I really realize if you spend a little bit of money, even though you may say, I don't have the money, if you spend it, you're going to be able to free up so much more time and, increase your revenue. So that's something that I'm definitely doing. And, I think on all my other businesses that I've ran, definitely I've always been in the last 9 years, I've been in social retail. I never had to really put out a lot of money. And so that's a little bit of a different concept, but I will tell you that if, like I said, I keep going back to it. If you build it right, they're going to come, and you're going to make up that money very, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
I think with the whole time thing, and I've had this conversation not only with myself, again, I've been doing this for 18 years, right? How long have you been in so far to real estate?
I just started, launched in January, January 28.
Yeah, amazing,
28,
amazing.
yeah.
And you're close to 8 million in sales, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just amazing.
It's so crazy.
So think about, I don't know if you and I had this conversation before, but think about it this way. An hour of your time, when you're creating content or when you are face to face with a client, a buyer or a seller, an hour of your time is upwards of $200, $300, $400 an hour. When you're in that lane of doing really what you should be doing, right? You agree with that?
Oh, totally.
Okay. But if you think about the number of hours where you're actually physically doing that during any given day, where you're creating content, or you are, because that's what you should be doing, right? Is creating the content, let somebody else handle distribution. You create the content, you get face to face with clients. For now, at some point, we're gonna, as we build the business, we'll move out. The whole idea of this, in my opinion, is to become a business owner at some point, right?
Yeah.
If you are making $200, $300, $400, $500 an hour when you're in your lane, every time you step outside of that lane and you start to process a contract, or if you are I don't know if you're delivering lock boxes or signs, or there's so many tasks that are associated with the real estate transaction that you could outsource for, and you already said it, if then the Philippines or here local. In the Philippines, you could outsource it for $6 to $10 an hour. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what that means is when you're doing those tasks, then you're lowering that productivity. You're now working for $6 to $10 an hour. Or let's call it $20 or $25 an hour, whatever it is. That concept, when I finally got that, that's when my business and my profitability exploded, because I could spend more time doing the dollar productive activities. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I just hired a transaction coordinator. When you become a new agent, a lot of times you have to do the contracts and learn all the paperwork, which I think is, a must. And after the third one was done, I was like, oh my gosh, this is taking up and eating up so much of my time. I'm going to hire somebody. So I farmed that out.
Good.
And then I also thought about too, as an agent, maybe you find an intern that just wants to be an intern and put this on their resume, that can be your little runner of those things. And you teach them some stuff. And then, because I remember being in college and I sold advertisement as an intern and didn't get paid anything, but it was a great resume builder for a sales job that I wanted.
That's
so
right.
that's the next thing that I'm going to look at doing.
I love it.
What would you, this is shifting topic just a tad, what advice would you consider giving somebody that is brand new to starting a business or specifically real estate? If they were jumping in, what would you tell that person? What advice would you give them right now, especially in this market?
Well, the thing is, I think when you're a new agent and you've never done it, you don't know what it was like before. So I feel blessed to know that I don't know what it was like.
This is normal for you. That's a great point.
That's fantastic perspective.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it was like in 2020. So to me, this is my normal, and I would just say stick with it. Get involved as many community activities as you can, because people do business with people they like and trust and know.
That's right.
And so really just try to connect and focus in on where you want to sell, and get a really good mentor of a teammate. When I signed up to be a part of EXP, I really thought about who I was going to partner up with, and I found somebody opposite from me. I found somebody that was really into the details and really had a business mind, and she and I complement each other a lot because I'm able to help her in the marketing part. And so I would say that just don't feel like an imposter. Go in, have fun. I mean, if you're passionate about something and you can live outside the box, you're going to be so successful. And just try not to be like the norm. The norm is boring.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting point that you just brought up, because a lot of people would have imposter syndrome. To even do the launch party that you did as you're stepping into this brand new space. a lot of people wouldn't even have the courage to do that because they would think, well, who am I? Who's going to come to this for me? You know,
Yeah.
how did you get to this place where you didn't, well, maybe you did wrestle with that and you're just like, get out of here. I'm not even entertaining that thought. But how did you get to this place where you were so confident to not let that inhibit you?
Well, I guess I leaned on like my past. Like I thought, okay, what have I been able to achieve in my past? And through social retail, I've always been a top 1% producer. I had wealth management experience, and in that space, I always worked with a team of professionals that were I was the quarterback. I'd go get the business, and then I'd work with a trust officer, an estate planner, the investments, the mortgage person. So to me, it was like when I had my launch party, I said, I am new to this, but I'm also not new to this concept of working with a team. And I've been selling and I'm buying my own real estate and building my wealth since I was 23 years old. And I've been a top producer on social media. And that's going to help me with selling your house and getting a buyer in there and finding somebody, because my network is expansive worldwide. And all of those things made people like, oh, wow, I have confidence that she can sell this. And so also, too, I had bought and sold 3 different times in my neighborhood and talked about the profitability that I made by, buying, waiting on for 2 years, and then the profit I made. And then, they're at my house seeing that I live on the water with a dock and a pool. And, they're like, well, this girl obviously is doing something right. But I would say I built credibility by just leaning kind of on my past. Is really what it came down to. And then just your personality and being approachable and likable, I guess.
Yes. And enthusiasm. That's what one word that comes to mind when I think about you is just, I would work with you because you're just so enthusiastic. You're just fun to be around. And again, that's blue ocean versus, believe it or not, versus red ocean. The bar, I don't know if you've seen this yet. I'm sure you have. The bar is set really low in our industry. And it's why 10% of the agents sell 90% of the business, is because the bar is really low. And so when you come in like you and you like just make this huge wave, there's zero surprise to me that you've had so much success in such a short period of time. So does that drive, like, because I know you're getting after it right now at your business building, does that drive come from your grandparents, or is there something else that like when you get out of it? Because I know like you work, right? You got a lot going on. Like where does that come? Where does that come from?
I think from my grandparents always said, like, stick to your word, go after it, have faith. And I'm like, I don't know if anybody looks into like the Enneagrams, but I am an Enneagram, 3 and 1. I'm an achiever and an enthusiast. So and then I'm a helper. So I feel like those are my 3 Enneagrams. So I love to achieve things. I love to help people make things happen or provide a solution. And I am always like, the grass is, the glass is half full, not half empty. I just can't function on negativity. And I tell my kids that. I'm like, my ears are closed, like say positive things, like, and maybe that's in a dreamland of mine, but I'm just enthusiastic and I feel really fortunate. And I had an opportunity, like a new lease on life with my grandparents taking me in at that age. And like, I just strive to make them proud and for them to be like, I don't ever regret, after raising 9 kids cumulatively, because it was their second marriage, that we took Natalie in. And I just was taught, like, you be a victor and not a victim, and you go out there and slay it. And I don't know, I love working, and I love making money, and I love helping people, and I love making people happy because it makes me happy. So I don't know.
That is a consistent theme that we've had. I'm thinking of, I think every guest we've had on our show has had, when we ask them about their past, they've had some genuinely hard struggles that they have had to overcome. It seems to be a very consistent theme amongst people who are successful, which makes me worry about our kids a little bit, because our kids haven't had to struggle a whole lot. And I sometimes it makes, I think struggle is necessary for success.
We're going to give them away for a couple of years.
Well, well, you know what? I told my kids I'm taking you on a mission trip for spring break.
Right, we have discussed the same thing. Goodness
I'm like,
gracious.
we're not going to Costa Rica or doing this fantastic vacation because you guys are entitled little brats.
Yeah, there's that saying. I love this saying that that hard times produce strong men produce good times produce soft men produce hard times.
Or weak men,
and which it feels like that's where we are right now. Soft men. We've created a society of softies, and so and look at where we are in the world, right? And so. That being said,
and entitlement, like that's
entitlement,
what you brought that up, like be a victor,
not a victim,
right. And we're part of, and that again, that's why you're so successful, because we live in this culture, in this world right now of everybody's offended, everybody's a victim, instead of let's just go help as many people as we can, have fun doing it, and go be victorious, I love the advice that your grandmother and or grandfather gave you.
I mean, I bring my kids to my stuff too, so they can see like mom in action, or they video me behind the scenes and stuff like that, and see like when my daughter, my 12-year-old daughter, she says, I'm just really proud of you, Mom. You're really a successful person. And I'm like, I don't know what she's like basing that off of, but I think she sees how hard I work. And the thing is I really try to, if I can afford something for my kids, I'm going to make them still go work for it, because nothing was handed to me, like you go work for it, even though, we have the money to do stuff. So, and then, I don't think you've asked this question, but I think something that I really rely on, and I don't know, today's world, who knows, it's being politically correct or not, but I really fall back on God. And like when I went into this, I think I videoed myself like the day that I started real estate, because I was really scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And like, are people going to really, when am I going to get a listing? Is it going to be a year, And I went on, and I just, when I caught Vacation Bible Study over the summer, that one of the things out of Matthew says, have a mustard seed of faith. You will say to the mountain, move from here to there, and that nothing shall be impossible for you. It will move. And I think about that and just think, if you have a little bit of faith in yourself and you get the right tools and you work, at it every day. I think there's a statistic that if you do something 18 minutes a day, you're going to be like 90% better than somebody else if you do that same skill set. So keep at it every day and it will pay off. And like you said, there's like 5% of the people out there. You can get scared to know that there's a zillion real estate agents, but how many are really working it? That's right. And working it like you're going to work it.
That's right. Yeah. So, and it's we've had this conversation, I believe, personally before, but I mean, Jesus is of course very important to us as well, and spirituality, and so I'm really glad you brought that up, especially now with everything that's going on around the world. Is just having faith that there's something, something bigger than something bigger and better than what we're experiencing right now. So I'm really glad you brought that up, Natalie.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So on that note, obviously, how much of a role has faith played in your business? I mean, clearly, that was your sort of your rock and your foundation when you started. Is there anything else you would add to that? I'm sure it's something you continually rely on.
Yeah, I rely on God, and it's like, I think when you go through times where you struggle, you sometimes try to lead by sight versus faith. And so I just say, like, God's never let me down. And, I know this wasn't going to be easy. And I rely on him. I pray every day. And I am a kind of an anxious person, and I kind of have a control type A personality, and I want something to happen. And every time something hasn't worked out, that I thought should have worked out, something better happens. So I think just really thinking about that. And like, I think about that day that I got put on that airplane when my mom just put me on an airplane to live with my grandparents. And she didn't talk to me for 4 years after that. So it was really hard. And I struggled with that and thought, gosh, if that hadn't happened in my life, one of the hardest things that happened, and I didn't have God in my life then, I wouldn't be married to my husband. I wouldn't have my kids. I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't have this fantastic life. So hardships are going to happen, but I think you just got to rely on God. And, one of the questions, I was looking at the questions that you may ask me, and it was like, what is the book that you're reading the most right now? Yep. And right now it is the Bible. And I'm not like one that's read the Bible from front to cover, but I look to scripture a lot. I read a lot of devotions. And that really helps me as a new agent, just to like keep relying on God, keep doing the things and doing the do, and surrounding yourself around other people that know how to do this, and like take the wisdom in, and don't act like you know it all or that you gonna figure it out yourself. And between, I think, having the right mentorships and having, God, and reminding myself daily, that is what soothes my anxiety of, I think, being a new
absolutely.
agent.
May I
And
ask?
being a mom and being everything,
Yes, yes. Wait, so may I ask? I'm just curious. Who brought you to your faith?
So my dad was raised Catholic, but my parents were divorced at 18 months old. So I only had like weekends with my dad, but I always knew of Jesus.
Okay.
But my grandparents did. I went for the summer. I moved in with them. My grandmother had me baptized. She didn't ask, or she didn't say you're doing this, but I was like, I want to give my life to Jesus. And she said, you know what? That's great. We're going to go to church on Sunday, and Reverend Cox, he's got the River Jordan water, and we're going to do it in front of the whole church. So I did that. And then, then I redid it with my husband and an ocean baptism later on. And so yeah, my Nana, she just passed actually, and that's been a really hard thing to do. But I know I made her proud, and she's not here now, but I just feel like I still answer to her and God, and everything I do is like, is this the right thing, and is this how I was raised? And I just made you guys can go on my Instagram channel, but I made a video on selling her house, and it says this house built me, and it was a really emotional thing.
Awesome.
And I think everybody should watch it, because you know what, that home that you're selling could be just that same thing for somebody else. Like they could have buried their dog in that yard. They could have been studying in that back bedroom, and this house that they're selling means so much. And so I really try to, as an agent, be really empathetic and do the right thing. And
you make it a personal experience for the seller as well as the buyer. It sounds like that's what I'm hearing you say. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So you also, so are you familiar with the concept of mortality motivation?
No, Natalie? Tell me what that is. I don't know.
So I shared this with my team. So my dad passed on Monday morning of this week. I'm so sorry. No. It's okay. He's in a better place, right? And he's no longer suffering. But I will tell you, just towards over the past few weeks, and asking him, talking to him, asking him questions. This mortality motivation. So there are 5 common regrets of people at the end when they're, and there's so much wisdom in this, right? And so number 1 is, I wish. Of the 5 most common regrets, number 1 is, I wish I pursued my dreams and aspirations and not the life others expected of me. That's number 1. I wish I pursued my dreams and aspirations and not the life others expected of me. Number 2 is, and this is a big one, I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I didn't work so hard. I wish I would have spent more time being present with my family, with my children, with my significant other, with my friends, right? That's a huge one, because at the end of the day, you look back and you're like, man, all this stuff, right? Versus the time with my babies, and with that was certainly one of his biggest regrets. Number 3 is, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings and speak my mind more. Number 4 is, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. There you go again. And number 5 is, I wish I would have allowed myself to be happier. I wish I would have allowed myself to be happier. So there's so much wisdom, when I was, just the past month and a half with him, and just listening to his some of his regrets. And then also when you're at the end, and he's, I believe he's certainly, he wasn't going to church. He was Catholic. He wasn't going to church. And, but towards the end, that became really, it became so much more important to him to have a relationship with Jesus, because you got to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, what am I gonna, like, I know that death is coming, and do I really believe or not? And if I don't, I better be right, either way. And so that was kind of a neat thing to walk him through as well.
That is awesome. Oh, gosh. Yeah, they don't make people, I feel, like that anymore. It's that generation is special. It's really, really special.
Well, but you're carrying that on,
Yeah,
Natalie.
you are.
You're carrying
I
that.
hope so.
You
I hope that
absolutely
legacy.
are. We are so proud of you, and we're
Yes.
just so grateful to have you on today. Anything else that you want to share with the audience before we
I
wrap?
think one thing when I was reading Stephanie's questions, just because I like to be prepared and all that, I think right now people I think some agents may get the question from people, should I buy now or should I wait or
It's a
should
great
I
one.
sell
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
And, what I would say is I did this little math analogy, and you guys can go on my Instagram and you can see it, and you guys can copy it and make the same Instagram reel. But it's if you buy now versus buy later, and I did just a $600,000 average, the home. If you buy now at 600 at the interest rate at 7.2, your interest rate or your monthly payment is 3,000. But if you wait a year later when interest rates go down, people's houses are going to be more expensive because they're going to say, oh, well, now people can afford because the interest rates are down. So your house is now $100,000 more than it was last year that you were wanting to buy, and your payment is still the same at 6% because it's $100,000 more. So I always tell people, you're going to have the same payment, but you're going to owe more. And do you want to owe more? And I feel in this time of market, if you guys are getting into real estate in the fall, I have a couple listings right now, and everybody's like, is it a good time to sell? I'm like, yeah. I mean, you're at the least amount of competition versus spring. There's not a lot of inventory.
Yep.
People are moving during the holidays still for their kids. And so I would just say for the real estate agent right now, if you're in the month of October, November, December, that's what you need to be telling your clients.
Oh, there's no question, Natalie. It's so great. This is actually, I completely agree with you. This is the best time to sell your house in our market in Richmond, Virginia. It is the best time to sell your house right now because there's no inventory, right?
Yeah.
And there probably won't be a ton of inventory in the spring yet because there's just there's so much demand and just not enough supply. But there's no inventory right now. So now is the best time.
And
right?
Courtney,
best time. And make sure, as I think this is the last thing I'll say, 'cause I know you guys got to go, but one thing that I have learned is be really, I don't know if the word is adamant or firm with your clients when they come to you and they ask you, what should I list my house for? And you give them the comps and you show them. A lot of the sellers right now are in the 2020, 21 mindset of what they think their house is worth and what somebody else's house sold for. And I have a client that I'm I told them what I thought they should sell for, and it was $200,000 less than what they are listing it for. And they're like, no, we want to list it at this. And I'm like, okay, well, you just be prepared that it may take a couple months, or we may have to do some price drops. And is that what you want to do? Because those also, I feel the longer something's on the market, it sends kind of a flag of, why is this property not selling? So it's funny, when we finally did some price drops and got to where I thought we originally should be, we got a lot more showing. So just, I think that the thing is too, is just be really realistic when you go in for your listing presentations to show days on market and what things are selling for, and find out what somebody's comfortable of. How many showings do they really want in their house? How many showings do they not want to have happen? And people that they're going to miss because they've listed too high during this market when it's not the same market.
Yeah, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. I love that. And I think, I really do think that you have to tell people the truth. What I used to say, Natalie, is I'm like, look, I'm going to write you a prescription. you may not like the way, and this was back when things actually weren't selling. Back in 2008, 2009, 2010. I'm like, look, I'm going to write your prescription here. You may not like the taste of this pill, but it's the it's the cure. So I always looked at it as you got to have tough conversations with people, because you could end up saving them or losing them money. It's a big deal, right? Helping somebody buy or sell a home. So you got to go in and tell them like it is. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing. So yeah,
definitely.
Good stuff.
Well, Natalie,
awesome.
I know.
Yeah, you're amazing.
You are. I'm so impressed, inspired, proud. Not that you need me to be, or Clayton to be proud of you, but we are.
So much.
It's just incredible to see what you've done. I know that you have inspired us. We've shared your content and what you're doing with Clayton's team to give them ideas and inspiration. And you really are standing out.
Yes, you are. You're doing it right. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yes.
And we're here to help. Proud of you.
Thank you so much.
Natalie Bodie.
Yes.
Have an amazing day.
Thank you.
You too, guys. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Go get in the room. Proximity Podcast. Thank you.